Noel Nation, welcome into the second episode of the Renegade Rundown. We've got my friend in here, Sam, from the Listen Up podcast right here on YouTube. I believe it's at Listen Up Podcast 18. And glad to have him in here. We're going to talk a little FSU football as we're less than 2 weeks away from kickoff, or actually 2 weeks in a day, less than a day. How's it going, Sam? Thanks for coming on.
Hey, what's up, man? How you been?
Man, doing good, doing good. We're trying to avoid this Florida heat, man.
Hey, you can't avoid it. Got to embrace it.
That's right. That's right. A
Put
whole
on
lot
some
of embracing
Crisco and
this
go
summer.
fry.
Man, it's been a while. We had a pretty big space here a couple weeks back. We got pretty deep into Florida State recruiting and Mike Norvell's ability to kind of land these whales. And up to that point, it had been, pretty rough. We lost out on several over the first 3 years. And man, it's just like that space was rocket fuel on the fire since then. It's like we've been on a roll. We
Yeah,
landed Lester.
it was kind of hilarious because I think when I came into space or whatever, people thought I was talking negative, but I was really like, just give it a minute. You know what I'm saying? Like just give it a minute. Everybody don't get too, riled up. But I think especially with recruiting on the staff, people been kind of like used to the letdown when it comes to the big time players. You know what I'm saying? But I think I told people, I think it was like last year. Um, I was talking to somebody that I'm pretty good friends with that, might have something to do with collectives and stuff like that. And it was like, saying we finna get it together, finna get organized. So, since then I've kind of backed off a little bit on my criticisms of the staff because I felt like, okay, certain people, because a lot of times I think what college football fans don't understand, we blame the head coach because they get paid millions and millions of dollars to take the blame, but it's all these other things that a program needs to run it, to optimize that program. So, a lot of those things are in place now. So, FSU, it's like rocket fuel right now. So I think everybody should just brace themselves for probably a nice, 2-3 year run, you know. I can't count
Yeah.
past 3 years because I think what I've learned in college football is if you can get 3 good years, you'll see what happened after the fourth or fifth year. Because I mean, things get shaky after that. 'Cause this,
There's no
it's.
doubt.
I think Nick Saban said it best. He was like, once you climb to the top of the mountain, it's not a lot of oxygen up there at the top. So either you take small breaths or you become the mountain. So so that's a different challenge. You know what I'm saying? To get to the top is a different challenge to stay to the top. So.
There's no doubt once you reach that mountaintop, complacency sets in. And whether it's the NFL calling for Mike Norvell or assistants steadily getting poached, year by year, whole staffs, yeah, it's really hard to get up there and stay there. That's why it's so amazing what Saban has been able to do
Yeah,
at
yeah.
Alabama for all these years. And you look at, Kirby, it's kind of like this is the year where it's like, all right, is the pressure going to get to him, or are we going to see Saban 2.0?
Yeah, it's
But
kind of crazy because Kirby got like a different built-in advantage because he is the flagship in that state, and it's like
yeah,
nothing else there. So he can.
LSU is similar. Georgia and
Yeah,
LSU, if they get somebody in there that can recruit that area and put a fence around it, they're dangerous. There's no doubt about it.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it really is. So
And that's part of what makes it so impressive. The fact that Florida State's been able to jump up into that top five when you look at it. Number one is Georgia with 26 commits. Ohio State's number two with 21. Florida at number three with 22. Alabama right ahead. They've just jumped us recently, and they've got three less commits at 18 commits. And then we come in at number five with 21 commits. That's pretty rarefied air to be in right there. And then you got behind us Texas A&M and Michigan with 27 commits. So you get a lot of these teams that have a lot more commits and lower average below the top five. But if we can hold it out and capitalize on some of these rumors that are floating out there right now, there's a chance we could hold this thing at top five or even possibly top three.
yeah, I think the class will finish somewhere around 7 or 8, 7, 8, anywhere from 7 to about 12 is where I kind of had them kind of pegged at right now. And I know people are like, well, how is that possible? Because we at 5. I'm like, well, you know, you when you look behind, what's behind you? A&M, LSU, Penn State, Notre Dame. Tennessee, Clemson. Those are kind of schools that Oklahoma way back there, Texas right now at 18. I mean, we know Texas ain't gonna finish at 18. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
What I'm saying?
It's
So
those teams that have less commits, like you said, even some of the ones farther down the list that you worry about, getting their guys and jumping up for sure.
but the fact that you've hit on, and like I think I said this when we was having this conversation about and we were talking about Charles Lester and why high school recruiting is important. And I know people, when the staff wasn't recruiting high school well, it was like, well, the portal's more important, but the coach don't even think that. The coach is recruiting the hell out of these high school players. That's why he's whiffing on them. Like he was whiffing on them because he was recruiting them, right? So, but the thing about it is, once you get a big time player like a Lester, a KJ Bolden, those fruits bring on more fruit. You know what I'm saying? So now you can get other big time players. And that's important because if you do the right thing with those guys, you're going to have those guys for 3 years, 2 years. Your best players got to practice against these dogs. You know what I'm saying? So it creates all this competitive within your program. And it's why high school recruiting is important. Like that formula is tried and true. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
it's
there's
fine
no
to
doubt
go out.
about it.
It's fine to go out every now and then and grab you a linebacker out the portal, or grab a wide receiver you might need, grab a punt returner, grab this guy, that guy, but you want to bring in 17, 18 high level guys, because if you hit on 9 out of every class, okay, you got 30 something NFL players on your roster. And if you got 30 NFL players, it's a good chance you can win a national championship with that. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, and there's no doubt. And like you said, it's contagious, man. And
Yeah.
a big part of it is these relationships that Norvell's been building over the past 3 years. Like you said, we had some whiffs early, but he established the relationships. It's like the part on the field and proving that development was what's missing. We got that in order, and now it's just bringing it home. And we've set up some really powerful high schools to kind of set up shop in. Whether you look at Buford, bringing in KJ Bolden, and a lot of Knoll Nation is hoping we can get Jaden Perlate flipped. And another one, we really kind of hit on this at the end right there at the National Signing Day with Chaminade Bandana. We ended up getting Conrad Hussey to come in, and right now the two biggest names floated out there for Florida State, possibly getting one a flip and one a commit that a lot of people think is Miami bound, is a guy named Zaquan Patterson. He's actually the number 3 safety in the nation, and notably teammates with the other big time guy that everybody wants, and Jeremiah Smith. And like you said earlier, getting Lester and then especially Bolden kind of back to back, our chances of getting those two guys are through the roof. Right. I've seen more and more people, especially reporting on Zaquan Patterson possibly making a move or a decision here pretty quick. Even a couple Miami guys changing their pick over to Florida State.
No, but that's good. That's good. It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. If we could get him over here, I'd be really, really happy with that DB class. You could start talking about stuff like possibly the best DB class in the nation, and that's something that haven't been able to say that in a long time. Like you said, we've been able to say it about the portal, best this and that portal, but to truly say, we got the number 1 this and the number 3 that, that's when Florida State's really moving. So We'll see what happens there. And then along the defensive line, also Artavius Jones, the guy that's currently committed to Miami. That's the third guy kind of on flip watch for me. And have you heard anything on any of those guys?
Nah, man, I take a real step back when it comes to recruiting. I never trust these kids.
Hey man, I don't blame you, man. We kind of talked about that before the show, man.
But I do think they are close with, like I said, anywhere from 7 to 12. I think they definitely close with that. So I feel pretty good and confident.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
And if you do that this year, you close with somewhere from 7 to 12, and then you do that 3 years in a row. You got to at that point you're building a pretty competent roster. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. Just keep the consistency going. And I think 25, the prospects out there, a really loaded class. Like you said, you bring in that 7th, anywhere from 7th to top 12. That's like exactly kind of what I was thinking before back in December and January. That's kind of what I was predicting. And now that we jump into the top 5, you get greedy. So I
Yeah.
want this 5-star and that 5-star, but you're probably being more close to reality, thinking 7 to 12. That's probably where it'd end up, and anything less than that would be a problem. But anything better than that would just be a plus.
15 wouldn't be that. I mean, think about it. If he finished at 15, that would be the highest class Mike Norvell's brought in here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I do think they finished somewhere from 7 to 12, probably more 7 to 10 range. To be honest with you, that's a good start though. That's a good foundation you land though, because that's a high floor. That means your practice is going to be more competitive. You should be able to find the good football players a lot quicker, because the more cream rises to the top. So a lot of stuff will happen a lot faster. You know what I'm saying? So I think once you start recruiting that way, I know people don't want to hear it, but you'll see more guys in the portal, because the writing's on the wall. Like, okay, brought somebody in here that's probably a little bit better than me. Writing's on the wall, probably gonna leave. You know what I'm saying? So pour to give, pour to take. So it is
Absolutely.
what
We
it is.
started seeing that this year, guys in the portal for the right reasons, not because, of some kind of, disagreement with the staff, or, disciplinary issue or this or that. Just like you said, the writing on is on the wall. A guy like Trayshawn Ward that you love, that, Mike Norvell gives flowers on the way out the door and wishes him the best. So that you're going to see it. And honestly, the portal makes it a lot easier for these coaches to really flip these rosters and kind of push these kids out the door. Gives the
Right.
kids a lot better chance of landing on their feet. So that's one thing about the portal and the one-time transfer that I really love. When you look at it, September 3rd, we're kicking off against LSU. They brought in a number 7 high school recruiting class last year. There's some freshmen out there that might, do some damage, but that's not so much what we're looking at facing, this September. But they've got a pair of offensive tackles that are sophomores. One is Will Taylor, and Jared Verse terrorized that guy last year, but it was literally his very first game as a true freshman. The other kid, the sophomore, I'm not sure his name. I could pull up the roster, but we actually didn't see him. They didn't start him against us, but he ended up starting 10 games, and both those guys, I believe, ended up being some form of all SEC freshman type platitudes for them by the time the year was over. And their offensive line is going to be a lot better, but so is our defensive line. I still like us. I feel like I kind of know what we've got in our group. I feel like LSU is going to be a lot improved, and they'll probably win. Have some good plays, but I just think overall with the depth and consistency that I give us the slightest edge for our defensive line against their offensive line. How do you see that playing out?
Yeah, I know people don't want to hear this, because I guess this be me considered being negative, but I don't really see it that way. I'm kind of like bullish on LSU, and I'm kind of bullish on Penn State this year. Both of those teams I'm really bullish on, because I like what they've done in the high school recruiting ranks and in the portal. I think it's tricky for me, because I didn't like our D line last year against competent to good offense trench play, right? I didn't like them against. And I think I remember last year I picked them to lose against Wake, NC State, and I think I picked us to lose against Florida also. Yeah, and Florida. I picked us to lose those games. They did beat Florida, and Clemson. Because I didn't like their trench play. I think Versus a really good player. I think he's a really good college player, but I do think there's levels to it. He overpowered that kid last year in the first game. Which was funny is I actually picked us to beat LSU last year for the first game, and people thought I was crazy, right? I actually picked us to win that game, and people thought that was crazy. But that offensive tackle, man, towards the end of the year, I mean, I don't know if it was 10 offensive tackles in the country playing better than that kid by the time it was all said and done. He was really, really good towards the end of the season. But Verse did bully the hell out of him that first game. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, we got Brandon Fest this year. and the Fabo is healthy, okay, we're not going to get overwhelmed, right? So, but it's kind of all of it's confusing to me because the way Oklahoma was basically able to hold their own with their backup offensive linemen, like that bothered me. Like I was like, damn, that's like this is very weird, right? Like Oklahoma had all these offensive linemen out, and then they're just like rushing for 250 yards. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, man. Weird things happen in bowl games, no
Yeah, but
doubt.
I'm just, but stuff like that sticks out to me. And then like Wake Forest, they never got uncomfortable on the offensive line or the defensive line last year. They never got uncomfortable. They were just like, okay, it's time to go score a touchdown. We're gonna hold the ball for 7 minutes. Hold the ball for 7 minutes. We're gonna go down the field on the third quarter and go in the game. Let's go down. So that bothered me. And then the Clemson game, and you expect Clemson to be better along the line of scrimmages. That's just what you expect. I mean, they've recruited to that. So that wasn't too shocking to me. And the NC State, and I know NC State got one of probably the best strength and conditioning programs, like development programs in the country. Like I promise you, every draft, NC State puts at least 1 or 2 people in the first round. Like that's just what they do. I mean, they do. I mean, they really do a good job developing guys, especially along the offensive line and defensive line. They always have first and second round picks. Like they do. So
No doubt.
so that did bother me. So I'm thinking this year, I'm like, well, can the defensive line against a good opponent, because I think LSU is going to end up having a top 5, top 10 offensive line in the country this year. I really do believe that. So, and I think their defensive line is going to be really, really good this year. So, can FSU stem the tide? And I think with the defensive line, it's a little different because you got Jordan Travis, right? So he can make some things happen that the defense, he can negate the greatness of their defensive line. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
But I think it really comes down: can Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson make? They're gonna have to hit on about, if they do 8 50-50 balls, they need to hit on 7 of them, right? So if they can do that, and can you get to Jaden Daniels, right? Can you get to him and make him uncomfortable? Don't allow him to like run down the field for 20 and 30 yards at a time. Don't allow neighbors to eat you up in the middle of the field. Don't allow that tight end, because Brian Kelly, I don't know what it is, but Brian Kelly and tight ends, that's a real thing. He puts them in the first and second round every single year. Like Travis Kelce is one of them, right? And Michael Mayer is another one. You know what I'm saying? Like every year he's just putting guys in the NFL at tight end. So he got another guy now that I
Yeah,
think is
Mason
really, really,
Taylor's a beast for sure.
yeah. So can you negate those guys? Get out to another fast start like you did last year, because I do think you got to get to a fast start. You can't play behind the sticks. And I'm concerned about that because last year, it's like we brought the whole offensive line back. So even though they wasn't as talented, but they all came back. So it's like they knew what they was doing. This year, you got a couple of new pieces. Gibbons is not there. You got a new guard. You're gonna have a new tackle. You might have 4 new people on the offensive line this year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're pretty far apart on that. I think,
well, you could have 4 new pieces on the
you
offensive line
could
this year.
have 4 new pieces, but it wouldn't be like, it would just because they beat guys that
right.
they still came back.
Right,
like
but
you mentioned, Gibbons didn't come back, but Demetri Emmanuel came back, and he was
right,
the best player on the line at the end of the year. I see a giant stride from the offensive line this year,
right.
and the interior of the defense.
Well,
on
I
my end
think
for sure.
I think the defense line and offensive line are going to be good this year, right? But I'm talking about in one game. In the first
Right.
game, got to figure it all out on the fly
It's
against
hard. It's hard to
some
break all
big
that in.
bullets, right? So I'm thinking to
Mhm.
myself, are they going to be as coordinated as they need to be, right? Because I think the linebacker play at LSU are not going to allow you to run counter so much, right? Those counter plays, instead of going for 10 yards, they might get blowed up in the backfield, right? Because you playing against a better group of linebackers. And Norvell didn't really counter them last year. He didn't run a lot of counter against LSU last year, right? So,
Right.
it's just a lot of different things that in one game, the first game of the season, that kind of puts you on your heels a little bit. So I kind of do got FSU losing that game by 3. I think it's going back and forth in that game. I just think they got. I think a lot of Harold Perkins. I think a lot of that D tackle. And I think a lot of Neighbors. You know what I'm saying? So, I think those guys are worth, 7 points. You know what I'm saying? One way or the other way. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's tough, man, because I really like Keon Coleman, but I'm like, damn, is he gonna be ready to go game one out the gate? You know what I'm saying? Like, Pokey's not really there. That because Pokey is such a calming influence on the offense that when you needed a big play, Pokey would just make it. You know what I'm saying? So is Johnny Wilson going to step up and assume that number one role? Or I think Keon Coleman's better than Johnny. So I think Keon is a guy that you could probably throw the ball to 10 times and get 9 catches for a $110 and 2 touchdowns, right? But is he going to be ready to go game one? That's something I got to, and then I don't want FSU to become a pass-happy football team either. I want you to continue to play into your strength, which is running the football and creating leverage and lanes for your running backs. You know what I'm saying? I'm kind of worried about let's not try to showcase or have a Jordan Travis Heisman moment. Like let's play within ourselves and be who we are. So it's just a lot of different moving pieces. I think this FSU team is so different than the last 2 years team, because the last 2 year team, even though they wasn't as talented, they knew who they was, right? I mean, we're gonna run the football.
I hear everything you're saying, but it's almost like you're saying like they're too good to succeed.
No. Yeah, I think I'm talking about.
Just hear me out. I mean, I know that's not what you're saying, but look, we had to go get Keon Coleman. We had to go get these better offensive linemen. Mm-hmm. And you're absolutely right. It's kind of like, I guess, the shoe's on the other foot. So we may have a lot more new people in new spots this year versus LSU. They'll probably be closer to their starting 5. Mm-hmm. But Johnny Wilson, for whatever his flaws may be, like he made Deuce Chestnut his bitch last year. So like that's like their best corner that they got now. I mean, I'm not sure where he's going to be, but I have no worries about him, not like the moment being too big for him or something in week 1. You brought up like trap. I totally agree with you on that, because that's not even Trey Benson's best play. I think he's more of an outside zone guy. So if they're going to run trap, they may run that with one of the backups. And look, the Vegas line is 2.5.
Right.
So yeah, they could win by 3. I definitely see that. But I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's kind of like one of those things. You're absolutely right, but at the same time, I guess I have more of looking at the glass half full than empty side of it, thinking, because I just have a lot of faith in Norvell and his ability to adjust and kind of call plays, and especially script that first half. Like, if I'm worried about anything, it's going to be the second half. Like, am I wrong about our D tackles? Are they going to start get tired and all of a sudden LSU's running it down our throat? Or that tight end starts, Mason Taylor starts to slip behind us. My worst nightmare is going to be Jalen Daniels getting it over our safety's head. If that happens, oh God, we're in trouble. It's going to be a long night. But if we can make him one-dimensional, I really think we can, take the game, but absolutely, it's going to be a tough fight. And they kind of have, kind of to what you said at the beginning, the more of the blue chip talent. I guess the main difference I have between me and you is thinking that kind of like, I feel like I know exactly what I got from FSU. I feel like I know exactly what them dudes are going to do when they get out there, just from the track record of what they've been able to do. Like, we brought in a whole new 4 wide receivers like last year, and they were ready to go. Well, one of them got hurt. We got him back. So, and we got Douglas back. I'm hoping he can take over that kind of calming presence that Ontario Wilson has. I know he's probably not up to the level of him, but just as a counter to those points, but
yeah,
you're absolutely right.
Well, I think if it was game 2, right? If it was, we played a sorry opponent, like a weak opponent first game,
it would be nice.
And then game 2,
we could have played Hawaii or something.
And then game 2, you play LSU. I would feel more confident, because I would have watched them and be like, okay, I think I see what we're finna do. But I think this team is gonna have a different DNA than the team over last year and the year before. So I find that fascinating. And like I said, I think it's a 3-point win or lose each way. So I'm not as like, oh, they're gonna run them off the field. Like, I don't believe that. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, like,
Absolutely. Either way, I don't see that happening.
when I see games when I look at games and say, okay, if this game gonna be on a margin, the first thing I do is say, okay, the game's on a margin. Well, who's special enough to win a game who has enough special players to win a game on the margins, right? And that's kind of how I judge football. That's how I judge football games in big matchups, right? I mean, and there has been some matches where you think, oh, well, this team is so much talented. Then you realize, well, that team had like 4 NFL starters on the offensive line. So that's why they was able to beat that team like that. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said,
man,
it's gonna be
Oklahoma
fascinating.
State. You remember that Oklahoma State 2015? Like,
Right.
who in the hell is this Tyreek kid, man? He's making
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
Jalen Ramsey, all these dudes look slow. Like, who is this kid from Oklahoma? And then, a couple years later, he's the fastest kid in the NFL. Oh,
Yeah.
that's why.
Yeah, you kind of understand. You look back and be like, oh, okay, that's why. Okay.
He
So
was making the boys look silly. I was like, what is going on here?
yeah,
First
so
game of the year.
it's gonna be fascinating, man. I think it's a fascinating matchup. It's probably one of the better matchups in college football. I mean, for the season, to be honest with you, because you got two teams that I think are pretty highly thought of, and I mean it's a fascinating matchup. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt, man. Our guy Seymour just popped in. I'm gonna let him in. Jump on here for the last 20 minutes. See if we can get him in here. Oh. There he goes. What's going on, Seymour? We just got through talking some recruiting and then some matchup against LSU.
Yeah, man. I apologize to everybody. I had them damn Little League games today, man. You know they don't never run on time, man. But yeah, recruiting, man. I'm really. I don't know if you guys have talked about it, man, but I'm really excited about the way Surtain has come in. Sam, I'm gonna ask your opinion because I know you gonna give it to me raw. Surtain, we expected him to come in and recruit at an extremely high level because he had the South Florida ties. He was a younger guy, can express the lingo to the guys a little bit better than I felt Woodson could. Had the NFL connections. For this to be his first class and it not being complete yet, I personally feel like he's doing a decent job with who we're still in it with. Of course, it's always room for improvement, but to bring in two 5-star caliber guys in your first recruiting cycle, I think it's a positive sign for things in the future. What you guys think about that, man? I think Surtain's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, he's been good. He's been real good. I mean, Surtain, he's done that. That was probably one of the better hires after Atkins. Atkins was a great hire. I think after that, Surtain might be the second best hire he's made, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
I've made the comment a couple times. He's kind of like, hopefully can be the Atkins for the defense. That guy they groomed to be that next guy to climb the ranks. Since you brought it up, Seymour, we were really just kind of finishing up on the LSU matchup. I think, kind of our DB's ability to play more of a zone look and, have zone eyes, as it were, even in man coverage, and his communication, like y'all kind of mentioned there, being able to communicate with these younger guys and these DBs, having been there and having a son go through it and be in the NFL now. How do you think that kind of affects the game plan?
I do expect us to play zone coverage a little bit better this year. My biggest thing is that during the scramble drills in the zone, are we going to break down in coverage? Because, against a mobile quarterback, man, when guys go into their secondary routes and we're in that zone, are we going to continue to be disciplined, especially so early in the season, man? I think that we have a lot of personnel that actually fits a zone, especially with the longer guys like Thomas, those types of guys. I just don't think that we were ever coached very well in the zone scheme because at the end of last season, man, I was hearing guys reaching out to former coaches to try to get an understanding of what they were being asked to do. And I don't think that it wasn't because they weren't capable. I just don't think that the message was being relayed to them very well. So the zone coverage is something that I'm interested to see, especially in this first game against LSU with a quarterback that can beat us with his legs.
I'm gonna say this, man. I think Surtain's is gonna be good. I really do believe that. But if you just look at the Norvell track record, Adam Fuller and everything, they won games two ways. They won games being really good on offense. They won games being really good on special teams. Okay. I think for this particular system that Fuller likes to run, which right now it's a hybrid system with some of the stuff that Randy Shannon likes to do, right? So Randy Shannon and Adam Fuller is the brain trust on the defense, okay? This is just a fact, okay? You have to have really good safety play. Like they ask their safeties to do a lot of stuff, right? So when you're asking safeties to do a lot of stuff, is why you have these breakdowns, right? With guys chasing 70 yards, you know what I'm saying? Wide open 70 yards down the field. So I don't know. I'm gonna just say this. I think Surtain knows football. I think he understands football. I think he knows this and that. But how does that work in a room with two people that's already established? This is the scheme that has worked for us the last year and a half. You know what I'm saying? So is he gonna come in there and marry his system into that system too? Like, I don't know how that's gonna. I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't. I expect for them to be good on offense. I expect for them to be good on special teams.
I will say,
I'm not gonna go into the season thinking all of a sudden against top 10 opponents with really good offense and quarterback play that they're gonna start being in the Mickey Andrews defense. Like I just don't see that happening. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not suggesting we're going to see some crazy change, but I will say, you kind of said it when Randy Shannon showed up. It was kind of overnight. We saw, a difference in the linebackers and stuff, and he became a brain trust and a part of that defense.
That's because they stopped playing certain linebackers that
For
everybody
sure.
loves to take videos of. You know what I'm
all
saying?
All of a sudden, Kalen DeLoach is getting a lot more snaps, right?
This was a put the best player on the field situation, and certain guys not understanding who the best players on the field was. You know what I'm saying?
Hopefully we see that same kind of thing with Surtain. So we'll see. I guess when the season gets here.
I think Surtain, like I said, I think Surtain's gonna be really good, man. But like I said, I don't. And in college football, two good teams play each other. It's going into the 30s. You know what I'm saying? So that's what is that? 4 touchdowns. You know what I'm saying? You got to see 4 touchdowns. That's just what's going to happen. I don't, you know what I'm saying? You can be mad at you can be mad at defensive coordinator all you want.
You got to be able to handle these situational things. Guys are gonna score. Even Alabama and Nick Saban, he's winning games 45-42. That's just modern college football. You got to be able to make that play at the end of the game when it matters.
Right.
So we've got the pieces in place. Let's hope we can get it done. Looking past LSU, we've got Clemson right there at the end of the month. Regardless of what happens week 1, that's a big time game. I'm more of the nature that we'll probably end up splitting these two. It would be amazing to win both. It would really suck to lose both. I think the most likely chance is going to be to split them. I'd prefer to beat LSU and then lose to Clemson and then come out and, run rule the ACC the rest of the year and then get the rematch versus Clemson in the ACC championship. I think that'd be probably the best, most realistic scenario because then you're 11-1, 12-1, and you're in the playoff if you can manage to beat Clemson. What do y'all think about that? Seymour, you can go first.
I'm kind of in the border. I don't know if you guys can hear me, man, but one thing about it, when you play Clemson potentially 2 times, man, either way.
Definitely in the portal.
Yeah, you're in the portal. Let's get you down a little bit down the road, Seymour, and but we'll let Sam go first and let you get a few miles down the road there.
I think they definitely could split. I could see them winning both. it's a pretty manageable, pretty easy schedule, in my opinion. I think Duke might be a little trickier than I thought when they first made the schedule. I don't know. I thought, but that quarterback, somebody I was showing, I was talking to somebody
Riley
about that
Leonard,
quarter. Yeah, I was talking to somebody about that quarterback and
he's a beast.
some of the things about him, and I was like, damn, I didn't realize that he was that. Like, I mean, he's very well thought of. Like, people think that he could be like a top 10 pick, and I think not next year. Well, he don't come out this year, but next year. So I think that Duke game could be a little bit more tricky than I initially thought. But I mean, they should beat Duke. I mean, they'll beat Duke. Pitt. I mean, Pitt's gonna be tough, but they don't score enough points. I think we'll beat Pitt. Wake Forest. I mean, you need to beat Wake Forest this year. We got to stop losing to Wake. That is ridiculous. But
That's gonna be a revenge game this year. I feel for Wake. They're gonna get whooped on this year. It's gonna be bad.
I
They
mean,
lost too much. They're not the super senior laden team like they've been. COVID really, put an ace up their sleeve. I'll tell you what.
well,
They're about to crash back to reality this year.
I think they're going to be a pretty decent team because, dude, that wide receiver coach for Wake does a really good job identifying wide receivers. Like, they got a dude right now, I think his name is Jamal Banks or whatever, and he's considered like somebody. I talked to somebody about this. They say like they think he's like a third rank. They think he's actually better than A.T. Perry. The Jamal Banks kid. Yeah, they think he's actually better than A.T. Perry. Because they saying, AT won a lot off of body control, jump balls, and things like that. But they saying this guy's like a better route runner and can win off the line a lot better than AT did. But he's from DC. He's a freshman.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out because they lost the coordinator, I believe, to Notre Dame, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I don't know.
They lost Sam. I know they lost the quarterback. Maybe it's not Notre Dame, but I'm pretty sure
they lost the quarterback. They lost Hartman to Notre Dame. Yeah. But they got another quarterback that they really like.
Yeah, for sure. But they lost that coordinator somewhere too that had that janky, whatever that system was, the zone read,
slow mesh.
What do they call it? Yeah, the slow mesh. God, I hated that.
Everybody's kind of doing
painful to watch.
Everybody's
when you're getting just beat by that. It's like like the most painful thing to get beat by. It's like
everybody's doing some form or fashion of that slow mesh. So it's not that like crazy. But I mean, for the most part, man, I don't really see like a bunch of losses on the schedule. I mean, like I said, maybe I guess Clemson early. I think you should be. I don't know. I think you should be able to beat Clemson, man. But I do think a lot of Clemson roster. I think a lot of that coordinator. I am afraid though that if you don't beat them early, that you won't beat them late because I think they're going to get better and better as that offense gets better. And you know what I'm saying? Like if that offense gets geared up and gets better, I think you need to beat them early.
Yeah,
because I do think
it's one of those things.
It's going to be a lot harder to beat them later.
So it's hard to beat any good team twice, but at the same time, like you said, it will be. It seems with a new coordinator, you'll seem like you'd rather play them earlier, but
yeah,
it's one of those things. We'll just have to play them when they get here.
Yeah, and, I mean, but for the most part, though, the schedules. I mean, that's a pretty manageable schedule. I mean, Virginia Tech, Duke, Syracuse, that's like 3 blowouts. Should be. Boston College, that's a blowout. Southern Miss, that's a blowout. You should be. I mean, by the time you hit October, by the time you get past Duke and get to the Wake Forest, Pittsburgh, Miami, by the time you hit that, your team should be clicking on all cylinders.
Absolutely. I think, you mentioned it with Duke, but I think it's pretty much Clemson and then Pitt and then Duke. And then after that, those are games that you should be able to just, put a check next to. Wake's going to be tricky just because they've had our number the past few years. But yeah, absolutely.
The Florida game is interesting because I don't think Florida's going to be. It's odd because I think Florida's going to actually be able to do a little bit more on defense. I think they're going to be a little bit better on defense than it was last year. I thought it was terrible on defense.
Mm-hmm.
But their offense, I just don't think their offense can be as good as it was last year. So I'm kind of flipped on Florida. Like I'm like actually Florida, Miami, Texas A&M, and it was Florida, Miami, Texas A&M. What's the other team? Oh, Penn State and Michigan. Those are 5 teams. I'm like so curious on what they're gonna look like in October because they can go either way to me. You know what I'm saying? Like Texas A&M had I think they had 30 injuries last year, like a crazy amount of injuries. Miami had like a crazy amount of injuries last year, right? So I'm
Their
just like,
staff is nuts. Texas A&M staff, they've got Adazio, Petrino, what's the old Florida coordinator that was like beating his players up at Maryland or something like that? DJ, yeah,
DJ
Durkin.
Durkin.
It's
Yeah.
like they've got like nothing but head coaches on there. It's like the most eclectic group of guys. It's either going to be like a Royal Rumble and like a straight up fist fight on the sidelines, or they're going to have some guys coached up really well. I'm not sure
Yeah.
which one it is.
It's gonna be fascinating because they had so many injuries last year. Miami had so many injuries, like they was depleted on the line of scrimmage last year by the time we played them. So I'm like, they did reload a lot on the offensive line and defensive line. So now I'm thinking, well, maybe Miami will be pretty good if they can get out to a nice little start. I mean, but Florida is tricky with Florida because if Mertz is going to be the quarterback, which he is going to be the quarterback, I don't think a lot of Mertz, and I don't think a lot of Jack Miller. So they don't have anything coming in there that's going to be the saving grace. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would have been so different if they had Jaden Rashada there, where maybe you don't play him for 5 games, but then you play him the last 5 games, and now you got a whole different team going into the back half of your schedule. So, but those are teams. I mean, Miami could beat you, Florida could beat you, but you have to be not doing what you're supposed to do to lose those games, right?
Big
You have
time.
to not be playing well to lose those games,
The thing about Florida, man, is they had the Jordan Travis effect that we've enjoyed. They had that with AR over there last year, to where they did so much on offense because of the threat of his legs and
Right.
that cannon of an arm. It's like you had to have your safeties back because he can chunk it 80 yards. Plus, he can take off and run anytime for 60, 70 yards. So I
Right.
believe like that made their offense go kind of like Jordan Travis did, especially the second half of 21 type situation where it was just like that was the offense.
Absolutely.
So I just don't see Mertz, and it's like you're going to put him in a position to like do the things that he struggles at, like be under pressure and throw these pick sixes and stuff. I like Napier. I think kind of like was with Mike Norvell, they're just going to have to give him the time. They're going to have to. It's going to be year 3 and 4 before you can kind of really see the fruits of his labor. But at the same time, he's a good general manager, and they've recruited at a decent level, bringing in a really nice class this year. So it's going to be kind of like that Oklahoma and Florida at the end of this year. It's going to be physical games. I don't see it demoralizing them, but when it comes down to it, I don't see them being able to outscore us.
Yeah. I don't think so either. So you should be able to, win both of those games. So I mean, like I said, I think I had Florida State. Well, I think a lot of the fans are kind of like, let's get to the Final Four. I'm not that high on the team personally, like as far as like thinking it's a Final Four team, and but I do think they can win the conference. And I'm more in line with, let's go win the conference. Let's get to another New Year's Six bowl, and let's win a New Year's Six bowl game. Because that, those are steps in building a program. You know what I'm saying? Those are steps in, solidly put your place on the mountain. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody can beat TCU. You know what I'm saying? Everybody can't beat TCU. That was kind of crazy. Like, you go look at their scores last year, dude. I think they won like 7 one-score games. They won like 8 or 9 one-score games last year. It's like insane.
Yeah, that doesn't happen every year. I mean, and we saw, it's kind of the same exact thing that happened to us in 2014. It's like we made it all the way to the playoff, and then all of a sudden, all those good luck bounces started going the other way, and it wasn't pretty.
Yeah,
we were more talented, but than TCU, obviously. But
football is weird that way, so
it'll put you right on your butt.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, September 3rd, man. I guess we lost Seymour. If you're down there, feel free to jump in, Seymour. I guess you must have lost signal. We lost you on the screen here, but yeah. Did you have a prediction on the final record? I've got us at 11-1 and then hitting the ACC championship. What are you thinking?
So I think it's 11-2.
Okay.
I don't know where the second loss is at, but
okay.
Like I said, I do got us losing to LSU the first game, which I think it'll be a close game. So that can swing any kind of way you want it to go.
You've got us going 10-2 and then winning the ACC at the end?
Going 10-2, winning a bowl game at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, I still think. Can you beat Clemson? I think so, but I think we're going to have the same problem Clemson had with us, which was 2014 when Clemson. Well, 2013 when Clemson thought it's our time, and then we beat the brakes off of them in
I hope
13,
not.
right? And
We
then
brought in a defensive coordinator. We didn't bring an OC, but it's very similar circumstances.
and then
We got
you
the
go,
Heisman guy.
yeah,
Wow. Shut
and then
up
you
with that
go
shit, man.
you go 2014 where it seemed like it's all set up for Clemson to win that game, and then we kind of humbled them again, 1-14. So I think Mike's about a year away from beating them. I think not this year. I think next year or maybe the year after that. But I mean, dude, we've lost to them like what 5 straight times. So like, it's not crazy to think they're gonna win the game, but it's just to me it's kind of tough because I think a lot of their defense, I think a lot of those cornerbacks, Wiggins and those guys I think that's the best secondary Dabo's had there since he's been at Clemson. So I think they can match up across the board. I think they can run cover two high, and be like, we're good, and we can crowd the line of scrimmage. And I don't like that matchup. Like that Brent, and something else that I watched too when I went back and rewatched the Oklahoma game, I just think Brent Venables have a really good, that system is really geared towards kind of slowing Norvell's offense down because of what he does with his backers. Because I mean, every coach has another coach that kind of has his number a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of weird. Like I don't know. Like I always thought Jimbo had Brent Venables' number. Like he always had something for Brent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's kind of my confidence, versus LSU. I feel like Mike's kind of had Kelly's number, even though those first couple games were losses. It was
Right.
like in 21, that team had no business in hell bringing, Notre Dame to overtime. I mean, we lost to Jacksonville State like a couple weeks later. So
Yeah,
that's
rough.
part of my hope because, I mean, thus far, he's kind of really just called the game of his life every time he plays Brian Kelly, it seems.
Sometimes coaches just have other coaches' numbers. So, but that I ain't gonna lie, man. What Brent did last year with that Oklahoma defense against Florida State just really surprised me. I was like, damn, like they really.
It wasn't the fun, the thing we were going to get to see. It turned into it's like all of a sudden, like we're fighting for our lives. It's like, oh, all right.
Yeah, I mean, but you have to give guys credit. You have to give coaches. It's a lot of good coaches, man. It's a lot of good players now. It ain't like back in the 90s, where all these teams, these 6 teams had all the NFL talent. It ain't like that no more. I mean, you look in the draft, first round picks coming from everywhere. You know what I'm saying? They come from any and everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
it's
you look at the polls and LSU's number 5, we're number 8. But when you kind of drop behind us and then like Penn State, those top 10 teams, basically like 10 to 40, you could throw them things in a scrambler and put them anywhere. Those teams all, like you said, they all have 40, 50, blue chip level type guys. They've got real talent.
I mean, like I was telling somebody, I think it's parity in college football. It's just not at the top. It's not at the top 3 teams. Like the
not
top
the
3
very
teams,
highest level.
Yeah, the top 3 teams, the top 2 teams, like they're way more talented than everybody. But once you drop below those guys, it's really about who stays healthy, right? Who stays healthy,
big,
right? Like if your team can be healthy, you can probably win 9-10 games. And most times, teams that go from they was ranked in the top 10 to they had a terrible season, disaster season. Go look at the injuries. You'll see that they had a shitload of injuries, and what can you do? You know what I'm saying? So, it's I always tell people in college football, your team is not as good as you think it is. It's never as bad as you think it is, right? It's never as bad as you think it is. Never as good as you think it is, right? Unless you're Georgia, it is as good as you think it is, right?
Right. And there's only room for 1 or 2 of those guys at a time. The only way, the only way to break it down is to supersede them. We broke Alabama's stranglehold, us and Auburn, I guess, because they hit that kick 6 in 2013, and then it was a kind of a scramble there for a while, and in the end, now it's Georgia. So we'll see if somebody can knock them off. I'd like to say it's us this year, but yeah, I agree. We're probably a year or 2 away on that. But hey, like you said, you go out and win the ACC, anything could happen. You get in the game and
you go out and win the ACC
and make a run.
You go out there and make it to the ACC championship game, win the ACC championship game. To me, I would be happy with that. If you make it to the game, I'll be happy with that. I'll be like, okay, we're steady making progress. We're taking necessary steps. I mean, I remember when when he took over. I mean, he won a bowl game, turned around, won the ACC, won a New Year's
Year
Six
four.
bowl game, right?
It was year 4.
Turned back around again, won the ACC again, went to the play, went to that championship game, won that championship game. So it's like sometimes it's just certain marker that you gotta check off. You know what I'm saying? Even Saban did it when he took over. Even Kirby did it. You go win your conference first. You get to that place and then you keep building and building on top of that. So I mean, but they head in the right direction. I think the staff. I think it's a top 10 staff. I don't know. Maybe sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. But I think it's a good mix. It's a good recruiting mix, and it's a good coaching mix on the staff, right? So I think they can see themselves playing in the final. Well, I mean, we're going to a 12-team playoff, so they'll make the 12-team playoff every year, as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I see it. Well, man, I appreciate you joining us, man. It's been a great episode, great chat with you. I know you've got the Listen Up podcast here on YouTube and at More Life 31 on Twitter, or X as they call it now. If you want to let the folks know where they can find you and what you got coming up.
Yeah, we'll definitely do an episode tomorrow morning. Me and Brandon get in and do an episode tomorrow morning on Listen Up Podcast. It's on YouTube, so you just type in Listen Up Podcast and probably put Knowles, and you'll see the stuff up there. You can follow me at More Life 1 on Twitter, and don't ask me questions though. Just leave me alone. I'm not an insider. I'm just some guy that talks shit.
He's a lot nicer on YouTube, guys. Like, don't be confused. Like, don't be talking shit on X. He'll get on your head, okay? But no, man. We appreciate you coming on. Guys, thanks for joining the Renegade Rundown episode 2. We've got some exciting stuff coming up. We're hoping to have Kelvin Hunt from ChopChat.com soon. Trying to get Willie Spears lined up for episodes. So we got some cool stuff coming up. And thank you guys for joining us. We'll see y'all next week, or maybe a little sooner with a surprise episode. Go Noel, and hell with everything orange. We'll keep it PG rated today.
True that.